Hi everyone, happy Sunday, good morning. Today I'm going to be doing a message before we get into another message from my dad. And this one I wanted to do basically focusing on a bit in Exodus 3 and a bit in Exodus 4. The message is basically going to be on how God will never call you to anything that He does not believe you have the capacity to do. And God will never call you to anything that He will not equip you for, provide for you for. It is just a matter of us looking more towards God and looking less towards what we're lacking.
Amen.
And so basically, I want us to go to Exodus 3, beginning in verses 1 to 2. And basically, if you don't really know the story too well, at this point, what has happened is that Moses was born. He's an Israelite, and he was born and grew up in an Egyptian household. And the Egyptians were oppressing the Israelites. The Egyptians were using the Israelites as slaves. And so Moses was the odd one out. Moses was actually born an Israelite, yet he grew up as an Egyptian. And so what had happened was Moses saw the way that his people were treated, and he even had justice and wanted justice for one of his people because he saw an Egyptian was wrongly treating them. And so Moses killed the Egyptian trying to, have justice for his own people. And then it became a whole issue. Everyone was like, we saw you do that. Pharaoh was just like, I'm going to kill Moses. Moses ended up fleeing and leaving. And it looked as though Moses was fleeing from whatever his destiny was. But wherever you are, it doesn't matter where you run. As Jonah in the whale will show us, God's destiny for you will always follow you. And so basically in Exodus 3 verses 1 to 2, which I'll get you to read, Mom, Moses has actually been living with Jethro, his father-in-law, and he's, been tending out after sheep. And yes, if you don't mind reading for that.
Now Moses was tending the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian. And he led the flock to the back of the desert and came to Horeb, the mountain of God. And the angel of the Lord appeared to him in a flame of fire from the midst of a bush. So he looked, and behold, the bush was burning with fire, but the bush was not consumed.
Yes. The reason why I wanted us to just stop at that part is because it said that Moses was led the flock to the back of the desert. And it just made me realize that was when the angel of the Lord appeared to him. And sometimes God will be able to appear to you when you're in a season of isolation. Not when you're avoiding people and saying, oh, I'm going to leave my job, I'm going to leave every responsibility I have. But it's so much easier for God to minister to you and connect with you when He's not competing for your attention. And so I thought that was a very, important part to dwell on, because when you're praying and when you're fasting and when you're actually spending time with God, it's not just to tick off something on the list. It's so God can actually appear to you in ways that He might not have been able to if you were rushing around doing this and that and you didn't even have a time for Him to speak to you. And so if you don't mind continuing verses 3 to 4, please.
Then Moses said, I will now turn aside and see this great sight, why the bush does not burn. So when the Lord saw that he turned aside to look, God called to him from the midst of the bush and said, Moses, Moses. And he said, here I am. Then he said, do not draw near this place.
Oh, yeah? That's just verses 3 to 4, that's okay. Thank you. Awesome. This bit I wanted us to dwell on because it said that Moses turned aside and saw the bush. And then when the Lord saw that Moses turned, that's when the Lord spoke to Moses. And the Bible even says, draw near to God and He will draw near to you. Yes. And I felt like that was also a reminder that at times it's not that God will not appear to you. It's just how deep you want to go in your relationship with God. Yes. Depends on how far you're willing to go, It begins with you drawing near to God. It begins with you spending time with Him. It begins with you saying, all right, God, I'm going to just dedicate this 10 minutes before I begin my day to you. And when you show that commitment to God, when you press into Him, He presses into you. And so it's because God saw Moses turn and actually look at this bush that God was like, okay, because I have His attention, I'm going to do what I desire. And so it's just a reminder of, drawing near to God and He will draw near to you. Okay, and I want to continue on to verses 7 to 12, please.
And the Lord said, I've surely seen the oppression of my people who are in Egypt, and you have heard their cry because of their taskmasters, for I know their souls. So I've come down to deliver them out of the hand of the Egyptians and to bring them up from the land to a good and large land, to a land flowing with milk and honey, to the place of the Canaanites and the Hittites and the Amorites and the Perizzites and the Hivites and the Jebusites. Keep on going.
Yes, to verse 12.
Now therefore, behold, the cry of the children of Israel has come to me, and I've also seen the oppression which the Egyptians oppress them. Come now, therefore, I will send you to Pharaoh, that you may bring my people, the children of Israel, out of Egypt. But Moses said to God, who am I that I should go to Pharaoh, and that I should bring the children of Israel out of Egypt? So he said, I will certainly be with you, and this shall be a sign to you that I've sent to you. When you've brought the people out of Egypt, you shall serve God on this mountain.
Amen, amen. And so what Moses did, when God told him about what he's to do and go before Pharaoh, Moses said, who am I that I'm the one should go? And I think a lot of the times when God's giving you a purpose, he's giving you a calling, he's giving you, something that he wants you to do, we sometimes think, but who am I to do that,
Yes.
Who am I, God, to have these children? Who am I to work at this place? Who am I to leave my home? Who am I to, go to this new country? Who am I, God, that you've given me this desire to start a business? Who am I? And so often we think about our qualifications, we think about ourselves, and we think, God, this is what I've got this degree, or I don't even have this degree, I've got these people supporting me, or I don't have these, we just look at ourselves. And I love the fact that God didn't even answer Moses when he said, who am I? God instead said, I will certainly be with you. And God shifted Moses' focus, our focus should not be on ourselves, because if we were enough on our own, we would never even need God. God knows that we're insufficient on our own. But he reminded Moses, it's not you that is the reason you can go before Pharaoh, it's me.
Yes.
And so anytime God calls you to something that you're not qualified for, you need to dwell less on yourself. You need to look less on your qualifications. You need to look less on your abilities. And remember that if God's going to be with me, he'll give me the capacity to do this. He'll give me everything I need to be able to do this. And so, I want us to then now go on to Exodus 4, please. The last part, we'll go Exodus 4 and read from verses 10 to 18.
Then Moses said to the Lord, oh my Lord, I'm not eloquent, neither before nor since. You have spoken to your servant, but I'm slow of speech and slow of tongue. So the Lord said to him, who has made man's mouth? Or who makes the mute, the deaf, the same, or the blind? Ever, not I, the Lord. Now therefore go, and I'll be with your mouth and teach you what you shall say. But he said, oh my Lord, please send by the hand of whoever else you may send. So the anger of the Lord was kindled against Moses, and he said, is not Aaron the Levite your brother? I know that he can speak well, and look, he is also coming to meet you. When he sees you, he will be glad in his heart. Now you shall speak to him and put the words in his mouth, and I'll be with your mouth and with his mouth, and I'll teach you what you shall do. So he shall be your spokesman to the people, and he himself shall be as a mouth for you, and you shall be to him as God.
Just verse 18. Please.
And you shall take the rod in your hand, with which you shall do the signs. So Moses went and returned to Jethro, his father-in-law, and said to him, please let me go and return to my brethren who are in Egypt, and see whether they are still alive. And Jethro said to him, Moses, go in peace.
Gorgeous, gorgeous, amazing. So if you actually read the story, Moses did end up then going before Pharaoh, and he ended up going with Aaron as well. And Aaron is the one who ended up speaking. And the thing is that God actually gave Moses the ability to speak. Like, even though Moses was like, I'm not that eloquent, I can't really do this. If Moses had gone, he would have been able to speak. And so, not to say that Moses ended up forfeiting his calling, he still ended up doing ultimately what he was meant to do. It's just that he didn't do it completely to the capacity he could have done it. And, I just feel as though God wanted me to tell anybody who needs to hear it, it is not your capacity that is holding you back from what God is calling you from.
Amen.
It is your focus. It is you focusing on yourself and not focusing on God. If Moses instead said, God, I'm not eloquent and I'm afraid to have to go to speak to Pharaoh, but nevertheless, because you're sending me, I will go. We often think the opposite of faith is fear, when the reality is that even with fear, you can still step out in faith.
Amen.
Even when you're afraid, you can still step out in faith. It's not even that fear is necessarily the thing that can hold you back, that you won't do it. It's just you look at yourself and your focus is on yourself and you think, I cannot do it. And so I don't know who needs to hear this, but I just want you to know that God is with you. God is for you. Whatever business idea, whatever children, whatever storm, whatever situation is in your life, please know that God would never call you to something if He will not bring you through it. Because oftentimes, it's not that God is going to remove the Red Sea in front of you, but He will part it and make a way for you to walk through it. And you're going to say, I did not have the ability to split Red Seas. God never asked you to have the ability to split Red Seas. He just asked you to work in partnership with Him. Everything that He's doing in this earth, He does it through us, and He doesn't just want us to be passive Christians who sit back and say, God, you do everything. And He doesn't want us to be the Christians who think, I have to do everything. Now I have to run my life. I have to do this, do that. God is not asking you to provide for yourself. God is not asking you to do every single thing by yourself. God is just saying, I will be with you. And so to whoever needs it, you are enough. You've got enough because you've got God on your side. Thank you.
Thank you.